ladies and gentlemen. We are here in like few people, but I think it could be interesting discussion anyway. I would like to introduce JÓSA BÁLINT. Actually, I never know what is your first name and what is last name. Anyway, I call you BÁLINT. Yes, other guys do. So, and BÁLINT is from our partner organization, Subjektív Values Foundation. The Hungarian, translation I like never can remember. It's something like, oh yeah, you will say it later. And BÁLINT is human rights activist, civil rights activist, and really like interesting person in social activism and social rights in Hungary. He also is founder of this organization and this. Yeah, and sorry, like the paper for the introduction just disappeared, so sorry for this improvisation. But yeah, BÁLINT was also the key person in our project, in the ROMAS project, with also Maki from Slovakia, and we met during these like 3 years on different events, and I hope that he will also mention this part of activities of his NGO, of this Subjektív Values Foundation. So yeah, this is BÁLINT, and it's yours.
Thank you very much. Wow. So, yeah, they say that, you know, Jesus also started with 12 disciples and went quite far, so it's not about the numbers, but the quality. So I was asked to talk about 3 things. One, us, Subjektív Values Foundation. In Hungarian, it's called Subjektív Értékek Alapítvány, but it doesn't matter. The English name we also use quite often because we are a very international organization, so we have mostly European projects. This is one. The second is a little bit about what we call as artivism. Like, why do we use art in our project? So I will talk about our methods a little bit. And the third is about Roma, the situation of Roma in Hungary. So these are the 3 chapters that we're going to go through. And if you have some questions or you want to have some clarification about some subject, just, you know, sign and then we can have a conversation. We are small, so this means that we can be more interactive, because if you want, you can always ask me anything. Don't worry. So about me, thank you for the word interesting person. I was also a very annoying person. All my teachers hated me because I never let anything slide. So when it came to social justice issues, when it came to racism in the school, I am from the generation that actually lived in socialism. So when I was young, actually the Roma situation did not exist. We didn't have Roma people in Hungary before 1990. Why? Because we had only socialist people in Hungary. So there was no ethnical issue. There was no registry for Roma people, and there were also no programs for Roma people. The first official kind of like policy on Roma came 1988. So I was already 8 years old, and we only had 2 years left from the system. And before that, there was only so-called new Hungarians. These are migrants, mostly, Roma people who came from Romania. This was one category, but they were also not Roma. They were called new Hungarian. And then we had this, of course, poverty. But poverty in socialism. Socialism means we have all equal share of everything. So how can be poverty? So there is no poverty. It's not called poverty anymore. It's called kind of deprivation. So like that you don't have access. But you should have access. Everyone has the same thing, but you don't have the same access as others. This is how socialism treated this so-called Roma issue. So when I was young, we never talk about minorities. We never talk about gay. We never talk about Jewish people. So I really had to live 10 years in a period where none of these topics were talked about. And then, of course, I was also small. So till 17, 18, I didn't know what actually Roma are. Like there was no one ever talked about it. It's not in the book. So you don't learn it. If you don't meet, like you don't live in a neighborhood, I knew that some of my schoolmates, some people that I live with or work with or play with are different, but I never knew why. Is this a skin color issue? Because no, we had a lot of people from different countries. We had Vietnamese kids, we had from Venezuela. They were also different colored. So, okay, so that's not the only thing that matters. But what is this? What is this? The only thing I felt that the teachers often picked on them. So it was always the easiest victim in the class. If something happened, they were the first to ask, like, did you do it? Did you do it? And then one day, we had like a school excursion, some sort of holiday or something in school, and a backpack went missing, like a backpack like this. And everybody in the school had to throw their backpacks into one room, and then when everyone cleared out, one person said, my backpack is missing. So of course, what the school disciple, the director did, they, on the loudspeaker in the school, they called out the name of 6 Roma kids to come down to the disciple's office because they want to ask, you know, where is the backpack? I didn't know that, but I was very strangely offended because I thought, like, I was in the same classroom, you know, my backpack was in there, so why they called that 6 guys and not me? So I joined them as 7. So I was the 7th person, and I went down, and there was like a huge scandal because I didn't know that what we are dealing with is racism. I only felt injustice. And this is exactly what drives me since I'm a little kid, like to look for issues of injustices, why that is not correct, what's the problem with this? So I'm always asking this question. And it drove me to a quite long career in so-called social justice or human rights or whatever, because what we deal with mostly in our cases when it comes to discrimination, racism, lack of integration, lack of access, it's a sort of injustice on a personal level. So that's my most accurate title, that I'm an injustice warrior, kind of. Like they call social justice warrior, do you know this term? So I'm an injustice warrior, I hate that. So basically what we did as an organization and how we came to be, it is also connected to this because my colleagues, friends, and buddies in the university, they were organizing the so-called Anti-Racism World Day that is on the 21st of March. It's UN. It's connected to South Africa and the massacre there. So basically, the UN decided that we should celebrate a day of elimination of racism on the 21st of March. And my colleagues were interested in the topic, and also one of them was interested in organizing parties. He still does that. He's a manager of quite nice musician bands in Hungary. Plus, he's also organizing cultural events, just like this one. He would be the one who is running around and knowing who needs to do what in the field. That's still his job in our organization. So we organized this 21st of March, and then we thought, okay, that's interesting, it's nice, but actually there is no funding, there is no strategy, there is no future of this, so let's create some sort of institution that can handle these things like paperwork and donation and rent and contracts. And that's why we thought, okay, let's make an organization called something. Like, what shall be the name? Like, what is this name? We cannot call it Anti-Racism Day Organization, sounds super lame. So actually, we had a radio at the university that was called Subjective Radio. Subjective Radio was a very open platform. So anyone with any type of political identities, thoughts, we had atheists and Christians, we had right-wing populists and leftists, anarchists. So we had all these type of people coming to the radio, doing their radio show. And we thought platforms like this make sense. Like one key issue of racism is not knowing the other. This is one of the fundamental problems in society, that actually we don't really understand who is the other. We don't ask this type of questions like, where are you from and what are you doing, and not trying to integrate or get to know people, but we have an opinion. We have like an upbringing, and this upbringing tells us what to think about other people. When you are born in a country, you immediately get the stamps, right? Your religion, your gender, who do you like, who do you hate, because this is what society and upbringing does to you. Of course, if you're a little bit aware and you have the opportunity and then you engage with other things, then this kind of perspective can grow. But what you get as a beginning is this kind of narrow-minded something. At least in my country, it was like this. I don't know how it is in Slovakia, and I cannot tell anybody anywhere else, but I think most of us grew up like this, that they tell you, you know, the French people are like that, the British are like this, the German are like that. None of that is true, right? We all know that none of that is true. There is no country where everybody is like this or like that. And I'm not just talking about migration or ethnical differences, but even the most accurate, exact, genetically 100% person from that country, which doesn't exist, but even that is not like the stereotypes that we talk about. So this is something you learn throughout your travel. You meet people, and then you go to Vienna and you see Vienna's people. There is no Vienna's people. There are people like Heinz and there is people like Ahmed, and they are totally different, and they are both born in Vienna. So this is what made us also a little bit thinking, okay, if we do an organization, this organization should be like a platform. It should be an engagement space. We should have like somebody who can talk about these things, but then also everyone can bring in their ideas, and let's make it into an organization. So that's why it was called also subjective values, because values, this is also like often asked me, like, your values are subjective? What does it mean if you talk about your values are subjective? They are subjective to you. I have my own values, you have your own values, and I respect your values, and I hope you do respect mine, but that means that my values and your values, they don't have like a hierarchy. That's why they're subjective. It's up to you what you believe in, and you can follow it, and you can live to it, and I don't want to change your values, but maybe if we disagree, we can have a conversation about that. And if you change your values because you agree with mine, then we won. And this is what the organization does a lot. So we try to kind of bring a lot of people together and then raise questions and to have some sort of negotiation around it. And then even if we disagree, we come a little bit closer to each other. And if we don't give up our values, the people who talk to us, they have to give up a little bit of theirs. And then slowly, slowly, we are kind of bringing social change. And this was our method. So basically, when we started, we all worked in different things. I worked a lot in education, in Pécs, where the university is. It's it's the second largest commune of Roma people living in a city. It's a university city, but also in the south of Hungary. And so we did, for example, with Amrita, it's a very small organization. They had this integration, Roma kids integration to school. The program is very simple. Roma kids in the afternoon go to a place, and then if they want to learn mathematics, we teach them mathematics. If they need to learn history, we teach them history. Great. On the second class, no kids. Why? Because for them, school doesn't make too much sense. We had to step back a little bit and then explain why school is good. You know, and then also think about the school, which school they go to. If the school is racist, discriminatory, why would they want to go there? So let's talk about the school, and then let's go to the school and say, hey guys, maybe you should not do this and that and this, and then the kids will be happier there, and then they want to learn history and mathematics. So there was always like, you know, most things we do are symptomatic. You know, we think about what is the problem, but we see only the symptom of the problem, and we try to cure that. It's like a headache pill, you know? You get a headache, then you get a headache pill, but actually maybe you have brain cancer. You know, so you have to think about why the headache is there, you know, like it's not enough to take a pill and then say, I'm done. So this is what we try to do. We try to build up programs that are long-lasting, 10 years maybe, and think about serious issues and monitor how we did, and the people that we engage with, what are they doing in their future? How do they get along after that we did this? So we try to make this kind of programs long-lasting. We had also like connection with the Roma community through the Radio C. C is the shortcut for cigány, cigános, gypsy. It's the same word in many, many, many countries. It's not really a positive word. We call Romani people, and it's very beautiful. But actually, some of the Roma minority in Hungary doesn't like Roma, because they say, you can call me Roma and still hate me. And you can call me cigány and still love me. Right? So it's a little bit complicated how we use this word, but the radio itself was called Cigány Radio, Gypsy Radio, and that's why the shortcut is Radio C. So in Radio C, we had also these intercultural programs. We had lawyers who come in and answered ordinary questions of people. So, you know, to build up systematic change. Because if you have one person helped, that's great. But if you can help a community, or you can teach the community to help itself, then you did something sustainable. So I'm into injustice and sustainability. But sustainability not on the eco level, but on the society level. And our main issue was anti-discrimination, and then we were thinking about how to do anti-discrimination work. There is one which is integration, right? We work on integration, people get accepted because they can come to the society and we can lift them up. That's one way to do it. And the other one, this is not the best one, which is like assimilation. We tell them what to do, and if they don't do it, we hit them in the head. We don't allow them in the school, we don't do this, we don't do that. So we try to do integration work rather than assimilation. And when it came to topics, we were also not just working about the Roma people, but we also spoke to migrants. And mostly these are the two categories that Subjective is dealing with or working with the most. We had a lot of integration projects from the from EU, and we had a lot of Roma programs from the Hungarian Ministry of Interior, because they are kind of working on integration mostly. So what we do, or how we do it, the tools we use are sports, arts, and campaigns. Sports meaning, sports has two things. One is to eliminate racism in sport, so like working with the football federations or sport clubs. Are you ready to integrate people that are not majority Hungarian? How can we help, for example, poverty villages that their Roma people became coaches, and then they educate people through sports also for the values of sports, which is, you know, like group work and being on time and kind of like integration, like trying to, you know, impose the values of the majority society to Roma kids who never ever experienced, for example, organized school system. They live in such conditions. And of course, if I go there as a white guy and start acting like a coach, they will not respect me. I have to build up this respect, and it takes a lot of time. Projects don't work like this. So it's easier, actually, to help Roma people from the community to become coaches, and then they do the sport stuff, and then first of all, I don't have to go there, which is sparing me time. But secondly, what it does, I can teach 10 men or women to become a coach, and then they can teach hundreds and hundreds of kids after. So like thinking about this was one way to go. And the other one, arts, we talk about artivism. Artivism is when you want to do like a message go through. So you use artistic methods actually to do campaigning. That's what we do as artivism. And then what we other do, for example, with this project is to help people who do art become successful, how to get, for example, social media out, how to have a good management system, how to make money with arts. This is also an issue. And then we have cartoons, for example, or fashion or music, which are very typical traditional art tools. Can I ask you a question? Do you think Roma people have more talent in arts than other people? Do you think so? No, they don't. Of course they don't. But why we all the time do this? Why we are always trying to make Roma people do sports and arts? What do you think? What is that? What would be your answer to this question? I agree. That's totally fine in a mixed group. But why, for example, in America, in the United States, for the black community, sports was a thing? Or why in Hungary, for example, when the Ministry of Human Capacity said the Roma people are so beautiful and they can do so nice music. You know, this is the two things Roma people are, beautiful and playing music. Okay, according to my minister. But what do you think? Why? The reason is that these talents, sports and arts, it's very difficult to suppress, you know, the systematic oppression which is against Roma people in any European country, unfortunately. In these territories are very difficult because if you are running, it's really difficult to shout after, you know, like, no, run slower or, you know, put like extra weight on people. Sports is a very objective thing. The guy who jumps the highest is the best in basketball, right? basically. Simple, but yeah. So it's difficult to say, oh no, the white guys can jump 10 centimeters high and the Roma kids should not jump that. So it's a thing where discrimination doesn't really apply. Music, art, same story. You know, if someone has talent, it goes through. It's difficult. Discrimination also exists. They don't get the concert room. They don't get into the university where they teach music. But when they went to a certain point, it's difficult to discriminate. Because if you hear something on the radio and you like it, you don't necessarily know if the person who makes that music is Roma, gay, Jew, whatever. So these two things are places of exploitation, but also explosion. So you can get through mass media and these boundaries. So that's why we see more artists and sport people from minority than in many other areas. It's not because black people can run faster. This is not true. So just to consider when you are promoting this. So why we use art? Because of these reasons. You can get rich, you can get integrated, you can get into a mainstream society through arts and sports. Because the discrimination, the challenge, the threshold they have to go through, the barrier is lower. So that's the reason. But okay. And then forum theater, because forum theater is a very good tool to so-called displace emotion. Do you know what forum theater is, or the theater of oppressed? No, there is. We did it in Hungary. It's basically a method when the drama is not written by some old white dude who is already dead, but actually the participants. So for example, the drama that we did once was that a girl stole something, but she blamed it on another one who was minority. So everybody in the class thought that the minority Roma girl was the thief. And then the drama was working out how it actually happened and who made it and what was her life with her family when they said, yo, you should have stolen it because everyone says you did it. And she says, no, I didn't. So this is like drama from life, but the roles are interchangeable. And every moment of the situation when we run the drama, you can always clearly understand who is oppressing someone and who is being oppressed by someone. And you have the opportunity to say stop. This is what you can maybe see in TVs also and series or whatever, that they say stop and then someone exchanges the people from the audience. So the audience can go in and exchange one of the oppressed person and react to the oppressor's opinion. That's theater of the oppressed. So we do this method because majority kids, majority people, educators, teachers, pedagogues, but even a policeman can go through the experience of being oppressed. Because mostly they are oppressors. A policeman is an oppressor. He has power. So every moment he's acting out as policeman, he's oppressing everyone else. He does it with a legal background, and he's not maybe necessarily evil, but still he's using his power. So a person of power becoming oppressed is an experience of so-called displaced emotion. And when you do this once, the experience that you are oppressed now, then the next time you use your power, you think twice. Right? Because you understand how are the power dynamics. Normally, you never experience being oppressed as an oppressor. So that's why we do this method. So this is one more to do. And then, yeah, it's also changing the word victim, because we use the victim quite a lot, into oppressed. Because a victim is someone who is without power. An oppressed person also is under threat of not having power, but it has the power to speak back. When you are a victim, it's done. It's finished. You know, in English also, like, you know, it's done. But if you are during an oppressive situation, you can stand up and say, I don't like this. And you can collect your allies and you can collect your methods and maybe change the situation and you are not so oppressed anymore. So that's why theater of the oppressed is a great tool. And then I think I take a little bit of break and I'll ask you if you have any questions so far about whatever I said. Yes? Yes. We have a mic man. Sorry. Uh-huh.
Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay, hi, my name is Zoltan. I'm actually not from Hungary, I'm from Scandinavia. And I've been looking or listening to people today and actually earlier before, and you mentioned one thing today, integration and assimilation.
Yes.
Everybody speaks very well about integration, but actually I feel that they're doing assimilation. Back home we had like similar problems with the Sami people. And in the 60s, we started to move away from assimilation towards integration, which means they should be able to live in our society, but with their own platform. And I'm just wondering, do you see that people are actually talking about assimilation when, no, about assimilation, but they're saying integration?
Yes. The short answer is you're completely correct. These terms are unfortunately completely intertwined, and assimilation to me also is meaning you give up your personality and you give up your culture, you give up your religion. So if you were Ahmed now, you have to become Christian and turn into Hans. And you should wake up when Hans does, and you should look like him, dress like him. That's assimilation. And this is exactly what in many, many projects, in many, many countries, this is what is expected of Roma people. To behave differently, to not behave like Roma people. And that's a problem, because losing your culture, and this you can see in France with the migrant community, but also the black community in the United States in the 70s, brings people onto the edge of society. That's also one way to be in a peripheria. Maybe you have access to a lot of things by integrating, but actually visible minority will never have the same equal rights as non-visible minority. Pardon me saying, but that's a fact. So we can talk about assimilation, integration, and inclusion, because inclusion would be the third version, which means that we accept you who you are, and when we create spaces where we can collaborate, and you don't have to change at all, then that's inclusion. So integration and inclusion, the truth is somewhere in between, because of course in society it's really good to wake up early, right? It's a good thing to wake up early. I don't like to wake up early, but in society it gives you benefits. It does. I mean, you know, things happen in the morning. But it's something that, I mean, you know, work things and societal things, you know. So if you want to change your behavior, you can decide to say, no, I don't wake up before 9 o'clock, or you change your behavior and you wake up at 7:30. So integration would be that you make your choice. Yeah? Inclusion would be that we create jobs and schools and whatnot, which opens at 10. Right? And assimilation would be that if you don't wake up at 7:30, a policeman comes in your room and wakes you up. So these are slightly different things, yeah? But on a personal level, for the people who go through, it's very different. Because if they have to give up their values, they have to give up their identity, then they give up some parts of their own essence, their persona, their identity. And losing your identity means that you are susceptible of new identities. You are more becoming easily radicalized, for example. If you have no money, you become easier a criminal because you have nothing to lose. In a community, no one should become a criminal, right? Because in a community, if you don't have money or you don't have access to things, then the community should help you in getting those. So these are the slight differences. But yes, it's often assimilation, what we mean, and we say integration. That's true.
Can I just have a follow-up comment?
Yeah.
Because when we started with integration, we got success. The Sami situation. When we moved from assimilation to integration and inclusion, that part, we went from failure to some kind of success.
Yes. Yes. I mean, you know, what's the mission of society? What's the mission of the state? You know, like why are we on this planet? And to me, the answer is to live happy and long. You know, these two is very simple. And assimilation can make you successful, but it cannot make you happy. That's the quantity that we'll miss when you assimilate, because you will always think like I'm not complete. Okay, cool. Then we go to the Roma of Hungary, because maybe you know less, but we did a so-called Roma Matrix. It was a European project, and we tried to tell a lot of things to ordinary Hungarians, because as I told you, it's not part of the curriculum, so we don't learn anything about the Hungarian Roma in primary or high school. There is no information in our textbook. It's quite an Eastern European phenomenon, because in Eastern Europe, if you become successful, you are nationalized. Right? If you're a poet from a migrant country, but your poems are good, then you become Slovak. or you become Hungarian or whatever, you know, immediately, in history perspective. Maybe when you were born, like our most famous poet, he was born in a Slovakian village, the mother was speaking Slovakian while she was born, and he's the biggest Hungarian poet, Sándor Petőfi, you might have heard anyway. So he's a very Hungarian poet, although he didn't speak Slovakian till he was 3. So he spoke Slovakian only till he was 3. So there are these problems. But anyway, so are Roma as similar to Slovakian Roma? 2/3 of them live under the poverty line. So we have not really clear information about them. We don't do so much research. The last really cool research, like real study about the Roma people in Hungary was in 2003. So in the last 19 years, there was no massive real statistical information collected about Roma society in Hungary. That tells already a lot, right? So all the data that is available are assumptions or from the 2003 survey. So it's useless, basically. But anyway, so we don't know how many Roma people live in Hungary because ethnical listing is not allowed. So on the census, when we asked people, we had around 350,000, 360,000 people saying that I'm part of the Roma community. But if you say that, you have pros and cons. Con is racism, right? The people who don't like to say that they are Roma if they are at least a little bit out of the really bad situation. And the other one, the positive, is you can get some benefits because there is ethno-business, there is social benefits from this, you can play in the ethno-league, you can have like some positive things, but the negatives are way out more than the positive. So basically, we had campaigns running to ask people to promote the idea to tell that they are Roma people. The real number might be around 1 million, so 3 times more this. So this means approximately 10% of Hungary. So that's kind of a scientific accepted number. Some say 900,000, but you know, that's 10% is 10%. 2/3 of them in the poverty line and also 2/3 them out of Budapest. So we have more rural Roma communities, a lot of non-cities, like next to cities, not urbanized. So even as in Ostrava or in Slovakia, Czech, there are some regions where you have these kind of ghettos, small villages, and in the suburbs of that village, you have like non-paved roads, no water, no gas service, no public transport. So we have these villages as well, but not really typical. What we have typical is the so-called Roma street. So in my village also, the Fehérhegy, which is White Mountain it's called, the White Mountain Street is where only Roma live. I don't know why, I mean, I don't know the exact history, but we have this in many, many villages that there is one street, all the Roma live there, the postman doesn't go there, the milkman doesn't go there, there is no bankomat, so you have all these type of discrimination issues there, but they are collected. So they live inside the city, but segregated in the city. That's kind of typical. 70% are unemployed, around 83% don't finish primary school, because high school, you have to get in when you are 18, and now the Hungarian law is that it's not obligatory to go till 18 to school, but till 16. So many of them don't finish the high school. Sorry, I said primary, right? Okay, they don't finish high school, pardon. But there is a growing number, which is also around half, where they don't even finish the primary school because of this reason. If they grow older than a certain age, then the school advises them to just simply leave and start work because it's easier to handle, easier not to assimilate because they don't want to be assimilated, so they kick them out of the school system. We have really a huge problem with this. Then this non-homogenic, I mean, in Hungarian viewpoints, Roma population is like the Roma, the Gypsies, the whatever. But actually we have Bács, which is Romani, from Roma, Romanian Roma. Then we have the Lovári, we have the Romungro, the Carpathian Roma, as they say. So people who speak Hungarian as their native language, but coming from the Roma community in the past. So we have a lot of these kind of different type of tribes within Hungary, but nobody really knows about them, except those who actually study this. The Bács Roma, for example, they don't speak so good Hungarian, so their pronunciation is lower, their income is lower, and they have also a very classical look. The Gábor Roma, maybe you heard of them, you know, with the huge cowboy hats and very colorful skirts. So they live very traditional, and they are all from Romania, so the region of Bucharest and south. Okay, 20% of the people who work do, no, 80% who work in physical labor. Their life expectancy is 10 years less than the average Hungarian. We have a very strange and somehow dysfunctional system of so-called ethnical municipalities. This is something which nobody really knows about. So basically, if there is 20% population of one ethnical group, then they can elect a certain municipality, which is cultural, giving them cultural autonomy in this village. So these people who are in the municipality should be able to work in the school or run a library, organize like cultural meetings. Very interesting. In reality, what they do is social service. Because of course the Roma population doesn't want definitely to go to theater when they are hungry or they are cold. You know, it's kind of like the pyramid of Maslow, you know, with the needs. You know, culture is not on the first three, and if you have the first three not, like housing, food, and education, then of course then, you know, culture is like secondary or not so important. So this is what they actually do. Then we have two dates which are interesting. We do start to celebrate May 17th, which is the Roma Resistance Day, maybe you heard of, or 2nd of August, which is the elimination of the Roma camp in Auschwitz, so kind of the Roma Holocaust Day. These are very new. In the last 10 years, we are trying to build them up and have some momentum for them, but they are not yet totally picked up. And then we have a Roma college system that is the total assimilation program, because the government takes away the kids and then puts them in a college. They live there and then they get educated how to be a good Hungarian. So that's the program about. There is no Romani language, culture, or identity, or color, or flag, or whatever. And then they can go to the university from this, and they get money. And the parents get money. That's also really funny. So they support the parents to send the kids to this, and then the kids, what they get back are not really Roma anymore. And that,
governmental school?
Yeah, it's a governmental thing, and done by the Reformed Church, by the way. And we have also the Integration Authority. The Integration Authority is completely an assimilation authority, because again, it is only talking about the perspective of how to make them work, healthcare, school education, and all these things, but it never talks about why the school is a problem, why the healthcare is a problem. It's always like, we want to push you in it, but we never ask why the system is not working for them. So that's not part of the Integration Authority. And we have a Roma strategy topic, which is also interesting. In 2012, Fidesz was, the Hungarian was the president of European Union for a half year. And then we created this Roma strategy program. We kind of ask all the EU countries where there is Roma population to create a Roma integration strategy. And then this was accepted by Commission. So now, 10 years later, every country has to report on their Roma strategy. So Slovakia has one, Czech also has one. And funny fact, we decided to do it. And then actually our Roma strategy is one of the weakest. Because if you ever heard about a strategy without numbers and responsibles, that's kind of weird, no? Like you say, for example, one of the strategy, key point of the strategy, more Roma kids should finish high school. That's in the strategy. And then the same government who made that strategy is allowing kids to drop out from high school with 16. You know, it's like, that's nonsense. It's just opposing things. But at the same time, when you say more kids, what does it mean more? They don't know how many kids are finishing high school. There is not a single number in this strategy. So they don't know if they want to make it 10 times more or 5% more, because they don't know. None of the numbers work. So it's a very funny strategy. I really like it. It was a pleasure to actually bash it completely when we had the opportunity, because there is a Roma strategy monitoring thing, and we talked to Commission, not to the government, and Commission is now not so happy with Orbán Viktor and his lovely EU fund smear campaigns and whatever. So basically the Roma strategy point is also now among these 27 points. Whenever you hear that Hungary doesn't get EU money, think about this. It's also because of the Roma strategy. So just to know. Commission is correct on this. So yeah, we are almost done. 5 minutes, perfect. So basically, one more thing which is maybe interesting is this public community service work. So you get around 150 euro a month. If you're unemployed over 3 months, after the 3rd month, it's over. And then if you have to go this public community service, cleaning the streets or making like really minuscule physical labor. And if you did that for 6 months, then you get unemployed money again. So this is kind of 80–90% of these people, these community service people, are Roma people. And this is the way how you make them vote on you, because in 2004, only 40%, maximum 40% of Roma people voted. In the last election, it was over 60%. And 90% of them voted on Fidesz, because they are in these public service programs, and the public service program is the mayor, the local mayor. So the mayor says, all the workers on the election day, please come vote. Or you don't get public service jobs. And if you don't get that, you don't get unemployment, you don't get social benefit, and your life is going down. Okay, so this is Roma situation. I could talk a lot about individual topics, but whatever you are interested in, let me know. And we just recently got a big kick in the ass from the Council of Europe Strasbourg court, because we have a desegregation case. This is the first government that decided that segregation is okay in school. So you can have a C class, so you have A and B, that's typical, and then there is a C class, again, Cigány, you know, so that's the word. And then all the Roma kids are in the school. And it is also disability and Roma in one group. So you can imagine the level of education. There is no money for integration educators, so there are no extra curriculum, no extra pedagogues, nothing like this. It's kind of the domesticator class, which is like they close the door, and then, you know, if no one hurts, then that's a good day. And that's what happens. Sorry, how much?
Widespread are these classes?
In every educational center, we have. Okay, the system is very centralized. We have 52 little counties, and in these little counties, there should be always one school, which is the central school. So everybody who drops into that region has to go to that school, and they always have a C class. So in every educational center, kind of like district, has this Roma school for sure. And ERRC protested against it and won the case. So officially now the government has to change the system, but I doubt they will. So there's no way to convince them to do that. Okay, questions? If you have any? Yeah, go.
Somebody else has, I don't want to ask too much. Yeah, okay. So when you talked about different classes.
Yes.
So I've heard this many times that they don't want to have this. Now, just to give you a different perspective to this, like back home in Finland, if somebody says Swedish kids need to go to, in Finland, Swedish is an official language. 5% speak it, it's an official language. And we have separate schools, separate universities, separate military. So if you go to military, you go to a Swedish-speaking military in Finland. And if somebody says Swedish-speaking boys or girls need to go to a Finnish-speaking school, that's never going to happen. They want the difference. The same thing in Belgium, the same thing in Holland, the same thing in many other countries. So the problem is not that you are separating them. The problem is that you're doing it for other reasons and you get a different result.
Yes.
Just so I don't disagree with you. I agree with you totally. But just it's important to remember. It's not the segregation by itself which is bad. It's what you do with it.
Yeah, there is this discussion. It's an ongoing discussion that, for example, one of the best schools for Roma integration, not integration even, but Roma empowerment, is the Gandhi School in Pécs. Again, I was there also a little bit interning, and they have super well-paid teachers, super progressive educational program, really great classes. I want my kids to go there. You know, although they are not Roma kids. But I want them to go there because it's really good. So it's, of course, not only segregation and integration is the problem. But imagine a society where 1/3/1/10, because the kids are more, so 1/3 of the kids, you'd never see a Roma person in your life till you are 18, because you are completely separated from them. So, of course, when you meet them, you engage with something different. And that is, you know, a source of discrimination, racism, problems, violence, whatnot. And of course, segregation, stereotyping is leading to this. So of course, if you would choose these classes and make them, you know, proper, and you would do tools, methods to really have integration and inclusion work in them, I don't have a problem. But what happens is that in the class that they are is the least heated, the least paid teacher, the largest room, like largest people in it, and it's just the opposite of what it should be or what it should serve. That's where they are critical, and they are so critical that this kid who applied on the European Court got 6,000 euro per year he spent in education. You know, so by being educated in Hungary, that was the justice system decision. By that, his rights were violated. 6,000 euro a year he spent in school, he gets now. And this also opens the door because anybody of them, all the Roma kids who were in these segregated schools could sue the state. So we'll see what the government does with this because it's going to be a big mess. Okay, thank you. More questions? Anyone? Okay, thank you for joining me. And I brought some gifts because these are created by our society or our organizations. One of them is Manual for Combating Hate Speech and Anti-Gypsyism Online and Offline. So this is one book. And the other one is an international book on best European Roma projects. These are non-EU mostly. So if you're interested, please take them with. I have some more. And one of them I wrote, and the other one is from a Romani girl, but we did it both with the Roma organization together. So they are quite good. Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Balint.
Good to see you.